start addressing the racism of the pandemic. And part of how we can introduce this topic to our audience is to say, there's a dog barking somewhere, if you want to mute yourself. So if we're all invited to a dance, it's one thing, but maybe we have no control over this music that is playing or how we are dancing, and we have no control over most of the things. We're just there invited to dance, and we are not even knowing what dance everybody else is dancing. So we want to talk about equity and inclusion, sort of using that image for all the audience to be able to relate to that. And I want to start with Waialia Chase. Waialia, what are strategies companies have adapted to engage employees in racial equity discussions?
Hi, Monica, again, thanks for having me. Some of the things that we're seeing at Leadership Montgomery companies are doing to engage their employees around racial equity is having trainings, holding trainings. A variety of different options is what they are exploring, and Leadership Montgomery is helping them to do that. Excuse me. Many people think that this is new to Leadership Montgomery, but it's not. Race equity work. So this is not something that we're just responding to because people are there are a couple of different groups of people, but it seems to many people that the murder of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, you know, when the pandemic first started is new to some people, right? But it's not. And so Leadership Montgomery isn't doing this race equity work in response to that. We've been doing this work since before that. And we have great partners in Wayfinding Partners. We have experts, facilitators. And so companies have been reaching out to us to provide race equity training to their employees. And so we don't only provide trainings and workshops, but we also provide coaching, right, to these companies as they're on this race equity journey, you know, wanting to lead their organizations, because it's a leadership issue. Right? If you don't already have this in your company, if you're not already looking to have diversity, equity, and inclusion as a part of your strategic plan and things like that, then you know you have to look to the top and talk about you know what's really going on. And so that long answer to your question is that companies are looking to us, you know, to help them on this journey. And one of the things that we ask is, why now? Right? Why now? This is not a new issue. Why now? Happy that it's now, but why now? Right? And what is your goal and your mission in this work? And is this something that you want, again, to become a part of the fabric and culture of your organization? And then we go from there and we help them to build out a plan and, you know, and to get this work started.
Mm-hmm. I want to come back to you on the why now, because you may have different answers on that. And I want to quickly respond to Judy about the CUs. We're going to extend the program to make up for the minutes that we lost at the beginning. I hope that's okay with everybody's schedule, because there's people who are getting continuing education credits and we want to give them the full hour of credits. And I want to remind BASET to please record these programs so we can give it to other people to view it later. Coming back to the topic of why now, Waialia, what are the answers that people are saying? Because there's as many companies that are engaging in this dialogue of equity and inclusion as there are others who are not engaging in these kinds of dialogues. So I want to know, what kind of answers do you get?
So some of the answers that we're getting is that companies have been forced to pay attention because their employees are coming to them and saying, hey, do you see what's going on? One of the things about the pandemic that has been positive is that it has forced people to pay attention in ways that they haven't before, because what else were people doing, right? Trying to adjust. We were all on this learning curve that this pandemic threw us into through no fault of our own. And so people have been paying attention. And so when the murder of George Floyd happened so publicly, and you know, Breonna Taylor, and like I said, Ahmaud Arbery, so publicly, people were paying attention. And so their employees started coming, you know, to companies, and then leadership in companies as well, you know, has been saying, wow, we really have a problem. So it's highlighted things that already existed, exacerbated, you know, an already serious issue in terms of race in this country. And so that's been the why now for companies. It's been, wow, we're behind the 8 ball. And, going forward, we want to be proactive instead of reactive. So right now, a lot of companies are being reactive, right? And we're happy for it. Again, happy for it. It needed to happen. And so it's happening. So that's the why now for a lot of companies. And then there have been companies that have been, doing this work, but didn't know where to go, didn't know how to get started, relying on their own resources and found them lacking. And then so it's been pushed to the forefront. And so there's a lot of answers to the why now, but we're happy that it's now.
Yeah, better now than never. But I want to keep coming back to those companies who have not started this process yet. So what are the consequences of having diverse employees and not engaging in these kinds of dialogues?
The consequences are serious, because then you have employees that don't feel seen, that don't feel heard, that don't feel cared about. In our other webinar series that we've done, that Montgomery Hospice has hosted, we've talked about the fact that we bring our whole selves everywhere we go. We show up everywhere we go. So I am a Black woman, working for a company that is not, especially now, addressing this issue of race equity. And I'm wondering, am I working for the right company? This is happening. Nobody's talking about it, right? And we don't have the benefit of being in person, where we meet in the cafeteria or we meet at a conference, in the conference room. And before a meeting, we're all talking. It sounds like empty. It's radio silence. So it's detrimental to a company right now, because their employees are looking at them, like we like to say, with the side eye, what's really going on, and then you start to look at leadership. It really puts a highlight on the companies that are not, right? And we don't want this to be a box checker either. And that's one of the reasons that in doing this work and Leadership Montgomery, doing coaching and, helping with the strategic plan and debriefing these trainings, because our trainings are highly interactive. Again, facilitated by experts. We also do surveys, of an organization, right? And to find out, has your organization done anything? Have you experienced microaggressions in your workplace? All these different things that we put in the survey to bear out what's happening. How are you looking at your company, and what do you think that your company should be doing, right? So the answer to your question, Monica, is that is detrimental, to a company to not do this work. Again, not to be a box checker, but to do this work is also to hold yourself as a leadership in an organization accountable. And Leadership Montgomery also comes alongside and helps to build that accountability model.
Yeah, coming back to the image of the dance that we're all invited to participate, if we don't choose music that we can dance to, we are at the party, but we're not enjoying the party as everybody else. And just, the fact that we are there doesn't necessarily mean that we are participating with our very best. And sort of part of these things, as the work of equity and inclusion starts, is identifying microaggressions, because there's a lot of behaviors that happen in the workplace that may seem normal to a lot of the members, but it may be hurtful to other people. And when you start these dialogues, do you realize, oh, that's not good with you, sort of, or that might not be a good practice. One of the things that I can relate to is this hair touching, for instance. I am just, and some of us don't like other people touching our hair, and it might be done with good intention, but it might be felt like, oh, why do I have to put up with these? Or is this your natural hair? Or, there's so many. I'm trying to describe what microaggressions are, because many people in the audience may not have heard about, but a lot of us feel we're doing a good thing for other people, but unintentionally, we may not be helping. Sharifah, can you give another example of these kinds so people can relate to it?
Sure, I can say at the front that we have a training called Dismantling Inequities in the Workplace. And Dismantling Inequities in the Workplace is a 6-hour half-day training, and it goes to the heart of microaggressions in the workplace. right? And so it talks about exactly what microaggressions are. And, you know, intentions are a slippery slope, right? So oftentimes the way we see ourselves is not how others see us. And so, you know, there are a lot of us who believe, oh, well, I'm a tolerant person. I have all these different cultures and races and people in my life. And I believe, you know, in racial equity and equality and all these different things. Surely I've never done anything like that. And so this training really helps to get to the heart of what microaggressions are and are not. And how they show up in our workplace and how we can dismantle those in our workplace and why it is important too. Because again, we show up to with our whole selves at our workplaces, you know, 8 to 10 hours a day. And I dare say in this virtual environment, even more hours, right? And so these things, they don't stop happening just because we're virtual. They might happen even a little bit more, right? And sometimes in an effort to bond with a coworker of a different race, we say things and do things that, yeah, we shouldn't do, right? And so, so that's how that shows up there. But so that training is available in the workplace. And what you just said also, Monica, gets to the heart of the difference between equity and equality, because they're different. They're not the same, right? And so equality is, oh, I want everybody to have the same opportunities, right? And we're going to give everybody the same opportunities. And when we give you those same opportunities, there's no reason that you shouldn't flourish and just like me, right? But equity gets to the heart of the fact that we have to give proportional opportunities to people, right? So because we don't all start at the same place. Equality assumes that we all start at the same place. Clearly, in this country, because we're speaking about being in America, we have not all started at the same place, right? And so I don't know, people have probably seen that graphic, and you gave an example, Monica, but people have probably seen that graphic of, you know, the kids trying to see over the fence, trying to see a game, and, you know, some are they're on the same size boxes, but one is short, one is tall, one is in the middle, and they can't all see over the fence, right? But if you give the really short person a taller box, then they can see over the fence, you know, things like that. So there's a difference. And then, so when we're talking about, you know, maybe even setting up a diversity, equity, and inclusion committee or charter or council at a company, then all of those things, you know, are included. We're talking about equity, right, in the workplace and what that looks like. And so what companies are also starting to do is really look at their leadership, right? If you have a diverse workforce, diverse in terms of race, gender, religion, things like that, but your leadership looks one way, all white, and is not reflective of the rest of your company, which is what keeps you going, the boots on the ground folks, then you really need to look at that. You need to look at why, right? And how to change that and what we can do. So that's the answer to that.
So let's think that some of the audience today are interested in engaging in these kinds of dialogues. And, you know, there's diverse staff and we never talked about these things. What should they do and how can Leadership Montgomery help them?
You can reach out to Leadership Montgomery. You can go to our website or you can contact me directly because I work with, you know, companies, individuals, people who are wanting to do this work but don't know how to get started, or maybe they have done the work but didn't think it was effective, all those different things. But you can contact us at Leadership Montgomery and we can get you started. We have sort of an arc of offerings in terms of racial equity work. We have Let's Talk About Race, which is a 3-hour training, and it gets to the heart of why we are where we are as it relates to race. Again, highly interactive. We invite people to, with all of our trainings, to lean into the discomfort because it is uncomfortable, but if we don't do the work, then we're doomed to keep on repeating the same issues. We have Dismantling Inequities in the Workplace, which again, I said is a 6-hour half-day training. We have REI training, our Race Equity Institute, that's a 2-day training. And then we recommend that people in leadership especially it's an 8-month-long commitment, but it's called Real Inclusion. And that is an intensive sort of look at everything, you know, across the spectrum. And then again, like I said, it's a leadership issue. And so how leaders can really lead the charge in getting this work done in their organizations. And then, like I said, we do coaching and training. We also provide town halls, you know, for companies where you can have a medium where your employees can come together and talk about, what they're feeling personally and professionally and what they would like to see from their company. So things like that. So the link to Leadership Montgomery has been put in the chat. Thank you, Beza. And so you can contact us for that and more.
And what would be the process? Because you talked at some point you do a survey first. And so you try to customize the plan so it meets the needs of the organization. Because I'm thinking many organizations may say we are inviting this dialogue and they're trying to do it themselves. So what are the pros and cons about do it yourself, or do you better hire an expert to guide you through this process? What are the benefits of the surveys?
So I would say that if a company does this work, then maybe they can do it themselves. But I would caution against it, and not just because I'm trying to sell something, but because, so I did speak to a company who was trying to do it themselves. And that's why they turned around and called me, because it didn't work out well. I can't speak across the board. I would never do that. But I can say that I believe that working with facilitators who do this work, who are expert facilitators, like I said, we partner with Wayfinding Partners. They're not new to this either. This is not, this is again, they're proactive. They've been doing this work. They are expert facilitators. And so they know this work, they do this work. There is harm that can be done. You can re-harm, you can re-traumatize people. Right? If this is something that you don't know how to do, anybody can get on Google and do some stuff, but is it effective? And what is the outcome that you want? Right? And then, it's the whole accountability model and the whole thing. So I would implore an organization to reach out to us, right? To talk through what the options are. And again, we do customize, Monica. So there isn't any one size fits all. We speak to an organization. Sometimes we start with a survey. Sometimes we start with a town hall. It depends on what's needed for that organization. I also mentioned that some organizations have done some things already. And so we come alongside to enhance that and to enhance the work that they've already done and to help them along the path. So it is highly customizable. We recommend that because again, there's no one size fits all. While the curriculum is what it is, the surveys help the facilitators to even customize the training for the people that are taking it.
That's wonderful. Sort of one of the things I want to expand a little bit on what harm can be done with this work, or when you start the conversation and then maybe there's no follow-up, or it's almost like I had a counselor that said you take the Band-Aid out of a wound, you only take it out when you can put some product in it and put another Band-Aid on. You don't just let it bleed like that because it may get worse. So can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, so to your point, and the example that you just gave, and I did speak to a company that did this as well. My colleagues will tell you that I have a story for everything, and I really do. So I did speak to a company that had done something, and then they thought, oh good, we're done. We talked to people, we heard what they had to say. They had sort of a round table with the Black employees only, and because they wanted to hear what the Black employees had to say. And then they were done. And then they heard from those employees, but they also heard from all of the employees in the organization who said, what was that? What is that it? What about the rest of us? We all think this is wrong too. We are here to support our Black colleagues. And so what's next? And there was crickets, there was nothing, because leadership thought, well, we did something, we're done, that's it, we're finished. And, again, there was that, side eye, like, maybe this isn't the organization for me. Maybe this isn't where I need to be because they don't see me, they don't care, they don't hear. So it's nice to give voice to people, to let people talk and say how they feel. But it doesn't feel good if, the people who are feeling the aggression are the ones being asked to do the work. Let's not practice on people. So reharming can be done in a variety of different ways. And, you want to avoid that.
Could be more detrimental. So the last, and someone from the audience sent in this question. If you're a board member with an organization, what should you look for? What kinds of things, as a board member, we think boards have a lot of influence in how organizations are run. So what should these board members do to try to engage the organization in the more equitable and inclusive practices?
Yeah, so, while I would love for everyone to pay attention to the race equity work, there's so many different things going on. There's so many different things that organizations have to pay attention to. And so you're multitasking. So to have a board member conscientious enough to want to look for something to bring to the organization is kudos to you. That's awesome. And that's what organizations need. We have a great board at Leadership Montgomery as well. So I would say that, help the organization do the research, right? Maybe come to the president or the executive director of the nonprofit or whatever the organization is and say, hey, I found out this information from Leadership Montgomery that I think would be really helpful. And here's who you contact and here's some of their offerings, right? And so, and that's a way to get started, to start the dialogue.
Yeah, and as board members, if I may add to that, it's important that if you are in a leadership position in an organization, whether it's board or top leadership, that you consider whether the employees have ways to voice their concerns, because a lot of the organizations don't have safe ways for people who feel they are being treated differently. To put their concerns up to the top so something can be done about that. So those channels, and as a board member, I encourage you, I'm on the board of Leadership Montgomery and other organizations, and I encourage you to look into the human resources practices in your organization as to how, and Leadership Montgomery can give you a lot of help with that as well. To see if that's really equitable and inclusive, and if people feel safe to speak when they feel that they are being treated differently. So thank you, Wai-Ali. I could talk with you all day, but we're going to move to the second segment here, and our second segment is about food is the best medicine. And full disclosure, I practice everything that Zana Clark would advise you, because I've started doing that in my own life, and it's been fabulous. Especially during the COVID time, how to boost immune system is probably the best medicine we can take to prevent any of these effects of these other pandemic that we're experiencing. So Zana, thank you so much for being here today. Can we talk about practical ways to utilize food to avoid stress or lower our stress levels?
Yeah, it's a great topic, especially given the topic that we just discussed about these two pandemics that we're all facing. And so many of us are under stress. And the first thing I want to say about stress is that we tend to think of it just as like stress, something happens to the body, but it's so pervasive. We actually have 4 different parts of our nervous system that get impacted by stress. So stress is going to affect our adrenal glands, which then affects our hormones and our energy. It affects our thyroid. There's a brain thyroid connection for stress. So that's going to affect how every single cell in the body operates, how it metabolizes. It affects our stomach. There's a direct connection from the brain and the stress that we feel to the stomach and your digestive system. And so your ability to absorb nutrients and digest the food and eliminate the toxins. And then we have our autonomic nervous system, which is fight, flight, or freeze, which when that's active, it pulls energy from all of the organs and takes it out to your muscles and your brain and your eyes so you can run away from that stressor, that saber-toothed tiger. So food, what you eat is going to affect how each of these 4 parts of our nervous system work. And those 4 parts of the nervous system and how well they're operating will affect what foods you decide to eat and how well you can absorb nutrients. So there's a direct connection between food and stress, the stress response. So when I think about what not to eat, it's going to be the things that we tend to reach for when we feel stressed. So when we feel stressed, our hormones try to generate more energy in the body. So we're trying to get more energy into the muscles, the brain, the eyes, so we can get away. And so your body and the hormonal reaction is going to make you things that break down into glucose really quickly to generate that energy. That's going to be our sweet things, our sugary things, our floury things, our, kind of really tasty things that we tend to all reach for, those cookies and cakes and pies and things like that. But sugar, when you eat it and you're satisfying that need to get this rush of energy, it's then going to drop your blood sugar and it's going to make a crash. And when you go into that crash mode and you get sleepy and you get brain fog, then your body's going to try to boost you back up. And it's going to use a hormone called cortisol to do that, which is very inflammatory for your whole body. So when we reach for that sugar, yes, it gives you a boost of energy and it gives you initially a good feeling against the stress, but then it makes you crash. And then it causes a whole realm of effects in the body from the inflammation. So sugar is one, caffeine is another one, right? So we get stressed and we think that we need to be more alert and we reach for more caffeine. And we go for that second and third cup of coffee or some soda that has caffeine in it. But caffeine is a stimulant. And so just like from the effects of sugar, it's going to overstimulate your nervous system. And then that causes those hormonal reactions that cause inflammation in the body. And as we know from like COVID-19, inflammation is a big risk factor with that. We know just from our health that the dis-eases that most of us are suffering from with hypertension and blood sugar imbalances, whether it's prediabetes or diabetes or digestive issues or brain fog and memory issues. Those are all inflammatory issues. So they're coming from some of these foods that we use to kind of buffer our stress. So sugar and caffeine, salt is another one. We'll reach for the salt, we'll reach for the potato chips, right? Because we have the salt and we have the sugar from the potatoes. But the salt is a sign that you're missing some minerals, right? So you could do just some healthy vegetables or a smoothie that has lots of minerals in it, and your body will be satisfied by that without getting the rush from the sugar from the breaking down of the potatoes. So salty foods and sugary foods and caffeine stimulated foods, those are some. And then the other area that we all go for is something creamy because we want the fat. And so if it has sugar and it has fat in it all together, oh, that's like heaven for us when we're stretched. Those donuts with the creamy fillings on the inside, they are so popular. But that combination of the sugar and those processed fats can be good and fats can be bad depending on the types. But when we go for like the quick, convenient type foods, those are processed fats. A lot of times those fats are going to be inflammatory by nature. And then when they sit on a shelf for a long time, which they're designed to do, they start to break down and become rancid and they cause more inflammation in the body. So yeah, so what we eat can increase the amount of stress because it's increasing that inflammation from the hormone cortisol. On the other hand, we can combat stress with foods. So typically I say the easiest way to remember it is that foods of color have all of the nutrients. They're going to have the B vitamins, they're going to have the magnesium, the potassium that counter the effect of stress. So simply, if you go to the grocery store and you say, how many different colors of food can I get? And this is real food. It's not the boxed food where they've added food coloring to it, but real food colors. So in your fruits and vegetable sections, and even in the frozen food sections, you can get lots of different colors. You can get reds, you can get blue, purple, you can get green, you can get oranges, you can get yellow. So there's lots of different colors. All of those different colors of foods actually have different phytonutrients in them that reduce inflammation. So it's going to reduce the stress response. So fruits and vegetables, go for like 5 to 10 of those a day, and you're going to get like a calmer stress response. Fats, I talked about fats being bad, but fats also can calm the stress response if you eat the right fats. So what are right fats? We've heard of omega-3 fats, that come from like sardines and mackerel and haddock and trout and tuna. You can get omega-3 fats. You can get healthy fats from nuts and seeds. They also have magnesium, so that's going to calm down the stress response. And you can get fats from one of my favorites, avocados. So avocado is the same type of fat as olive oil. And most of us have all heard how healthy olive oil is, but one of the reasons is because it calms down that inflammation and it helps to calm down stress response. So colorful vegetables, healthy fats, dark leafy greens, those are going to be great ways to like calm the immune system down, and making sure you're eating regularly throughout the day. If you skip meals because you're stressed and you're going 8 hours without eating because you're on Zoom calls all day long, your body will go into that fight, flight, or freeze mode, raise the cortisol, raise the inflammation, boost up the cravings for the sugar, fat, and salt from non-healthy foods, and then you'll be in the spiral again. So yeah, so those are some ways that food can hurt, but also how food can help.
Thank you, Zana. And a lot of the people that are struggling in this COVID time are because, you know, parents are having to teach they became teachers also. They're teaching their children at home, and they have not one job anymore, they have 4 jobs because they are doing all of these different things at home. And the children at home too, they are eating whatever is out there that can be prepared quickly. What advice do you have for parents right now? Because also the anxiety of the kids is heightened, as is the parents. So what can you say to them?
Yeah, so meal planning is a big one. So now that moms are at home, a lot of my clients are finding that they have a little bit more time on the weekend to help to plan out the menu for the week. And you don't have to cook it all on the weekend. I generally say cook some on Sunday, cook some on Wednesday. And then you find you don't have to cook every day, and you can have some healthier options available for the whole family. And one thing that I've done to help you with that, I actually prepared a free gift, which is going to be 21 family-friendly recipes for adults and for kids that are designed to help lower the stress levels and boost up your immunity. And some of the things that are on there, actually, I will just show you one that I made today, just so that I can show you. Hopefully you can see this, but this is an oatmeal berry bake. So this could be a breakfast, this could be a snack. It has oatmeal and it doesn't have any dairy. It's using almond milk, but it has berries in it, it has apples, it has nuts and seeds in there. It has cinnamon and spices. So this has all the nutrients to help to lower stress. Oats with the B vitamins, and oats also has kind of an herbal nutrient in it that is very calming to the nervous system. So just having some of this to start the day off for the kids for breakfast. It's sweet. It has maple syrup in there, so it's not too sweet, but it's sweet enough for kids. That could be a great like breakfast or snack item. Chocolate avocado pudding is another one that's great for kids and for the adults. It's made with avocados and cocoa, raw cocoa, and you sweeten it with a little honey or maple syrup, and you can add a little cinnamon or ginger if you want some flavors. If you like crunch, which I do, I add cacao nibs to it. And that's another great one. Chocolate is a source of magnesium. It's calming to the body. You know, the avocado is a source of the healthy fats, but it's also high in potassium, and it buffers the effects of our salt cravings. So that's going to have a great effect on the stress response and the immune response. And who doesn't like chocolate, and who doesn't like creamy, and who doesn't like pudding? So those are two great ones. I also provided some recipes for energy balls, which are kind of like a nut bar that you go and spend $2-3 at Mom's or Whole Foods for, but now you can make it at home, and you can make it with nut butters and dates and different types of toppings like coconut, and you can even use Nutella if your kids really like Nutella in it, and there are healthier versions of Nutella out there. But you make these little balls and you roll them into a ball. They can play and make them, and then they can dip them in whatever kind of topping that they like. And so you can have a variety of these, and they freeze well. So you can make a bunch, keep them in the freezer, take out some, put them in the refrigerator, and the kids can just go in and get that. So those are some good snacks that are available. The meal plan and the recipes that I provided has breakfast, lunch, dinner, and enough for 3 snacks a day. Hopefully nobody needs 3 snacks a day, but I wanted to give variety because some people like meal plans. Some people just like to have recipe ideas, and they mix and match it with what they automatically eat. And this way you have enough to last you. They're quick and delicious. This berry oatmeal bake took me 10 minutes to put it together. And then I stuck it in the oven while I was getting ready for this today. And when it came out, it was ready, and then I could demonstrate it to you. So yeah, I think that'll be very helpful for families.
And thank you, Sana. So you're saying you're gonna give that recipe plan to the audience today?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
And there we have some questions on the chat box here. What
Yes.
would be the most cost-effective, non-perishable options for omega-3s? For example, fish can sometimes be pricey, but tilapia is relatively inexpensive.
Yeah, that's a great question. And yes, you can get it from tilapia. Nuts also have some omega-3 in there. So walnuts is a good source of omega-3. So you can buy walnuts for that. Sardines are very cheap. So you can get a whole, tin of sardines for about $2. And if you go to Costco, you can get them even cheaper than that. And they have really good ones by Wild Planet. So they're clean. But sardines would be a great, sardines and herring and mackerel, all of those. I actually make a tuna, sardine, and sometimes mackerel combination. So instead of using just tuna fish, which can be higher in the mercury, I use 1 can of tuna and 2 cans of the other. Sometimes 2 cans sardines, sometimes sardines and mackerel. You can you have flexibility with that. And other than that, you make it just like tuna fish. It tastes like tuna fish. They can't tell, but that's a very cost-effective way to get omega-3s in, just with those canned fish. Mackerel has some mercury in it, but it's not as much as tuna. Tuna actually has the highest, and the albacore tuna has the highest. But if you buy skipjack tuna, that's a little lower in mercury. And then, yeah, the smaller the fish, the less mercury risk that you have with it. Right?
Yep. And Karen, yes, professionals need to be reminded that we all matter. And that's why we're doing these kinds of webinars in partnership with Leadership Montgomery, because we can't give giveaways, but we can give you this amazing information that we're sharing today that hopefully will help all professionals and remind them that they all matter very, very much. So it's mackerel also high in mercury?
Yeah. So mackerel, you can find some mercury and mackerel. It's not as high as tuna. That's what I was just trying to explain. So, and that's why I
Yes.
like the blend, because sardines is the lowest. So if you blend like sardines and tuna or sardines and mackerel, you'll get less. Also, I didn't mention this, but if you eat cilantro and parsley, so you make a salad and you have cilantro and parsley added to it, it acts as a binder, like a chelator, and it helps to pull mercury out of the system. So whenever you have fish, you can make a nice little pesto sauce with cilantro and parsley, spread it on top. Or if you're having the tuna fish, just make a salad and throw those into your salad, and that will help if that's a concern.
And Zana, does olive oil lose its anti-inflammatory properties when it's used cooking?
So very interesting question. Well, it increases its inflammatory process when it's heated above a certain temperature. So olive oil, omega-9 oil, is a very fragile oil, and you want it in its fragile state. You want the raw, unfiltered olive oil, not the refined olive oil, which is designed to withstand the heat. So buy the raw, unfiltered, extra, virgin olive oil, but you want to keep it on low heat or low medium heat. When you heat it above that, you'll see it starts to smoke. When it's smoking, that's a sign that your oil, the molecules, are breaking down, and it makes them become like free radicals in the body, which is a stressor to the body. It's inflammatory to the body. So yes, heat your olive oil, but just keep it on low, moderate heat. Use avocado oil if you want to cook at a medium or higher heat, or put it in the oven, like for roasted vegetables. Don't use olive oil like a lot of recipes tell you to do. Use avocado oil. It has a higher heat point, and so it'll withstand the temperatures and won't break down. But good question.
And we can continue talking with you of the day, Zana. So quickly, before we go to the last segment, and for the audience, we're going to take a little longer because we started later and we're providing continuing education credits to many of you. So we want to stick to the hour. So what are some practical tips to boost immune system right now, Zana?
Yeah, so that's a great one. And I always tell my clients, and I do a lot of education on this, that really that is our best defense against COVID, is boosting your immune system. And you can boost your immune system many different ways, and you want to have a holistic approach. So food is one, and you want to have a diet that is filled with vitamins and minerals and something called phytochemicals or phytonutrients, which are only in plants. And phytochemicals are properties in a plant like flavonoids, like you heard of, antioxidants, and they protect the plant from the environment, actually from viruses and toxins and bacteria that are in the environment. And when we eat plants, we get that extra protection within our own body, and it's very synergistic. It's not like taking a supplement. So number one is the food. Eat as many plant foods as you can. You do not have to be exclusive. You can have animal protein because your body also needs protein to fight against any viruses that are out there. You want healthy protein sources. So when you're buying your animal products, you want to try to understand the source. Like, is it coming from some big factory farm where they just keep it closed in a tight space without any sun and grass and water and all the things that an animal needs to flourish? Or can you buy grass-fed from a local farm, maybe somewhere here in the Maryland area? Your source of your animal protein makes a difference. So healthy animal sources, lots and lots, about 80% of your diet at a minimum should be plant foods, vegetables and fruits, combination of many different colors. If you do that, you're going to get the vitamin A, you're going to get vitamin D, you're going to get vitamin C, you're going to get zinc, you're going to get quercetin, you're going to get all of these nutrients that now many people are going out and buying as supplements to enhance their immune system. So start with the food, but then also when you're feeding the body, it's about what else are you doing? Are you getting enough sleep? You need 7.5 hours of sleep. You need to go to bed between 10 and 2. That's when the body is regenerating, between 10 and 2, not going to bed at 2 a.m. You need to reduce the stress, right? So get out and walk some now, put your mask on, go out, be in nature, be around the trees. There's negative ions in the trees and in the air that counter viruses that are naturally out there in the air. Get some exercise. You need to move your lymph. You have a lymphatic system. Your immune cells move through the body, through your lymphatic system. It also pulls waste and toxins out and eliminates it from the body. That only works from movement. So if you're sitting all day on the computer like this, you are not moving your lymphatic system. Every hour you need to get up and move the body. So the foods with the nutrients that we know support the immune system, and then your lifestyle and your mindset makes a big difference on your immune system. If you are stressed.
And we're going to have more with Zana because we will do another webinar towards the end of the year on healthier end of the year recipes for our audience. So we will come back to this. I want to get through our last segment with Teresa Canto. Teresa, are you there? Thank you, Zana. Thank you so much. I don't see you yet, but Teresa, can you tell us how did insurance companies adapt to the demands of the coronavirus to support their employees?
Okay, can you hear me, Monica?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so insurance companies quickly responded. Well, you saw our Congress enact what we call the CARES Act, which provided stimulus to individuals and companies to keep them going. But the insurance companies also came out with, promoting free testing if somebody had any symptoms of COVID. You'll see now that we have a lot of pop-up facilities that you can go to, whether it's drive-through, there's rapid facilities now if you're traveling. Companies also, they relaxed the regulations on FSA policies and your dependent care. So those are those policies that, you pre-tax your money and it's a use it or lose it. Well, some employees are staying at home, so they don't need that dependent care account. And usually you don't have flexibility to change those or change the amount. They also said, you're not going to the doctor. Nobody was having elective surgeries. You weren't going to the dentist. You weren't going to the eye doctor. So they also relaxed the rules around the use it or lose it on an FSA policy. Several vendors, major medical carriers in particular, came out with premium credit. So you were either eligible for a premium credit for a couple months of your premium, or you could ask for deferrals. So say, and we had several companies take advantage of this during the height of this when they were laying people off and not kind of sure what their staff was going to look like during COVID. They asked for premium deferrals to be paid by the end of the plan year. And then, so that kind of started it. And then carriers said, well, wait a second, why don't we just do a premium credit? We're not paying out claims for these months. So we saw a little relief in premium from the major medical carriers.
Thank you. So to the audience that are in leadership positions in all kinds of organizations, you may want to talk to your broker or to Teresa at Gallagher because you can negotiate these insurance premiums and get rebates or credits. Certainly at Montgomery Hospice and Prince George's Hospice, we got that thanks to Teresa and her team. So be on the lookout for that because we all need, and this is going to continue for the next 9 months. So we want to provide everyone with practical tools that you can put to use right away. What are innovations that organizations came up with to support their employees during these terrible times? Teresa.
So a lot of innovations, and a lot of this I'll kind of bleed probably into the next question too. a lot of innovations was using the technology you already had in place. So whether it was Microsoft Teams, whether it was Zoom, WebEx, so they were finding outlets to do more video and Zoom calls or conference calls telephonically to engage their staff and kind of keep things going. So we saw a lot of just adapting to innovation that our whole country had to do it, you know, unfortunately. So whatever you were using before wasn't technically going to work in the new environment that we were living in the last couple of months. And as you see now, we have no idea how long this is going to last. And we also saw a lot of flexibility around telework. And I know that's kind of getting into some of my next question on how we improve, you know, did you see some improvements in leave policies? We saw lots of changes and lots of engagement with our HR consulting team around how do we adjust that leave policy? How do we make it more flexible? How do we put something in place that protects the employee and the company so that I could, you know, have a work at home environment? What if you didn't even have the computer outlets to do things at home? So maybe it was all company owned computers. Well, they had to relax their policies around taking company equipment home. And so we saw a lot of, you know, all of a sudden overnight policies to kind of allow for that flexibility. You know, work schedules. We talked about this earlier. Work schedules are kind of bleeding in from morning to dusk. You're like, where's the day start and where's my day end for work? We saw a lot of flexibility around that. And I think the hardest target right now are the parents who have younger students who are, again, they're trying to teach their child and help them with the things they need, feed them breakfast, lunch, and dinner, all while trying to do their normal job. So we've had a lot of calls with companies around, you know, you need your leadership to engage in that and make the employee feel comfortable and not as stressed. We did a pulse survey that shows 70% of the C-suite are really stressed out about burnout. They're really worried that their employees, while maybe more productive because they're at home all the time, they're not taking breaks. They're, you know, they're not getting up from their desk. Or they're feeling conflicted. My child needs me and I can't do this call. I'm not being as effective as I should. So we've seen a lot of changes around that as well.
Yeah, I just speak for myself, you know, just to make it ergonomic, you're set up at home. You know, I've seen even people in my own organization going to physical therapy because the setup was not right. So maybe organizations need to look at that as well. So how have organizations kept employees engaged? You were talking about really creative ways that organizations are finding.
So this has been the fun part. So we had to get creative, and it kind of like a lot of things came out of employees saying, these are ideas that I'd like to see to engage. A lot of them were feeling alone or just kind of, I'm sitting at my desk all day, I'm not really talking to anyone. If you're not on a specific team all the time, you might be doing a lot of independent work. So we saw coffee chats, we still see them. So employees are doing coffee chats together, whether that's through leadership or just on their own. Lots of happy hours, and whether that was a drink-based or not, that was trivia games, weekly town halls with leadership was a big key thing that we kind of promoted and pushed for organizations, that your C-suite really needs to be out in front and your management needs to be out in front and visible as much as possible, which happens to be just, you know, on a video, but they need to see you. They need to have that interaction. And during these weekly town halls was a forum for employees to kind of voice openly, these are the challenges I face this week. This is, you know, these are the resources I might need. We exchanged a lot of ideas. So we used other children in our own company. So anybody who had a child so I volunteered my daughter to do a cooking demonstration for the young kids, like make something simple and give the kids an hour away while the parent could work, but just to kind of also get them engaged as a family unit, not just, hey, I'm an employee and I have to sit here all day and talk to you. That was a lot of fun, and is still fun to kind of do that, to engage your employees. That's the biggest thing right now, engagement. Again, back to the survey, we did a pulse survey again, which is a quick survey, surveyed employers and said, you know, what are you doing? And these were the things that they kind of gave their feedback on. They were doing pizza parties. So they were mailing gift cards out to everyone, go get your favorite pizza and let's have a staff meeting or check-in and we're all eating together. So kind of just trying to still build some social responsibility for each other's well-being Well-being is the #1 driver right now for HR staff. You know, it's usually retain, cost for benefits, some level of engagement. Well, and emotional engagement right now is the #1 factor from that survey for HR staff. I mean, my section's kind of boring after all that food is medicine talk. You know, this is insurance. So it's just to get it all together, we really need to take care of ourselves. We need to identify the resources that we have. If you are not sure for yourself or for your company, Gallagher is a consultant, and what we do is consult companies around this. What are some, you know, sharing ideas, what works, what doesn't work. Consider your culture when you think about how do you engage your staff. And then really just be open to ideas and change. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Teresa. We have another comment here that we're putting more hours, and I think there's enough surveys proving that we are sitting in front of our computers longer. And what practical advice can you give us to stop that, or to put breaks on our schedules? Or
yes. So we did, and this is something, again, that we saw through surveying and kind of engaging. We did it with our own staff too. So during some of these, what we called our town hall, you were encouraged to be outside or with your child, or have your child in the background engage in this 30-minute call that you could just kind of flex your shoulders a little bit and say, okay, I need to take a break from my day. So we were encouraging breaks in the day. And then for those individuals that kind of need to teach their child during the day, allowing them to say, hey, I can't schedule meetings for these 2 hours because I really need to focus on my child, but I can schedule them maybe a little bit later in the day. Really encouraging taking time out for yourself, exercise, eating appropriately or healthier for yourself, you know, meditation, anything that you can do to kind of help yourself stay engaged and really take care of your own health. It's hard when you are now staying at home all day and you have nothing but this computer in front of you. And it's easy in our world today to just get caught up in the next email that comes in. You just have to remind yourself to make sure you're taking those breaks and encourage your HR team again, or your management, to come up with ideas that are going to be acceptable to make people feel like it's okay to take those appropriate breaks.
Yep. And
I know I need it.
And if you need more help, I highly recommend Teresa. We've worked for over, I don't know, 10 years now, and we created together a wellness committee that has done a lot of good things for Montgomery Hospice and Prince George's Hospice. We do massage and Reiki practices over the phone now. It's over the phone, they tell the other person how to massage, or there's this Reiki over the phone, and we sort of mail also lavender oil or some aromatherapy products to other people, since we can't be with them, but we try to engage and maintain our well-being through those distance practice. I think we are right about the hour that we started. I think everybody who's waiting for CEUs, it will be okay, the 1 hour. There's one more question. How are you handling from an HR perspective accounts of employees that pay for parking and transit flex accounts if they have them? Teresa, this is on the chat box.
Yeah, so again, there's a lot of relaxed rules around that. They're allowing you to, you know, I know that was a pre-tax benefit for the most part. You can do pre-tax, or you can use it as employee benefit. We have not seen right now. I do think we'll see it in the future as we get into next year and know that this is kind of our new normal and who's going to come back and who's not. You'll see relaxed flexibility about what you can pre-tax and what not. But if you're giving the benefit, I think we're going to see some ad hoc bonuses to compensate those employees who were used to getting that as part of their overall compensation. I think we'll see some bonuses coming back to those employees.
Thank you,
Good
Teresa.
question.
And so
Monica,
yes.
I was just going to ask, would it be helpful for me to put a link to my website in the chat for the recipes?
Absolutely.
can
And we're
click on
also going to
that.
send that link with information to everybody who signed up, because we had technical difficulties at the beginning. So we probably lost some people who otherwise would have attended. So we recorded the webinar, and we're going to send it to the over 100 people that sign up for this webinar. And is it okay with all our panelists to give permission to people to share the recording of the webinar with other people if they would like to do that? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we will send the recording, and you can share it with other people if you feel that that would be helpful. Zona's website is on the chat box, but we're also going to send all 3 websites on an email, follow-up email to all the audience. We want Gallagher's, Leadership Montgomery, and Zona Clark's website. And if you sign up on Zona's, she's going to give you the 20-some recipes.
Yeah, 21. Yeah.
I can tell you, I've been on her meal plan for probably 2 or 3 months now. And I can't wear my rings anymore because I've lost weight, and that was not the intention of it. So I can't say enough about how wonderful. I didn't know you had a culinary degree, but those recipes, when you do them, they taste amazing, and no restaurant is good enough anymore for me. So
thank you for that.
And thank you to the audience. You guys have been wonderful. I'm going to turn it to Besa so you can review the procedure for CEUs. Thank you, everyone. We're going to have one more of these webinars before the end of the year, and we want to talk about the holidays. Two very important things. One, food for the holidays, that it's healthy, anti-inflammatory, and immune system boosting. And we're also going to talk about grief and how it affects during the holidays, and practical tips that you can use. We may have HR practices during the holidays in this new COVID time. Teresa, you may give us a hand with that. And we're going to have Leadership Montgomery that has a very important module on engagement and things that we can do to help others that are suffering during this pandemic in the holidays. So we're going to provide all of these tools and send you the invitations. Thank you so much for being so patient and kind with us today. I'm going to turn it to Besa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've learned so much from this, from leadership to nutrition to HR. This is wonderful. So to wrap things up, earlier this morning, you received an email from me with an evaluation link. I'm also sharing it in the chat box. We really ask you to take a couple of minutes to complete that evaluation form. It's very important to us to hear your feedback and comments about how we can do things better, or what you found helpful in this webinar. Also, since we were not able to take in registration for this, I highly encourage you to complete this form and make sure that you have your email address listed. That way we can follow up with you with your CEUs within the next 2 weeks. This program also counts towards the Montgomery Hospice and Prince George's Hospice Certificate in In-Depth Life Care program. If you're not familiar with the Certificate in In-Depth Life Care itself, it's a program for working professionals and community members who wish to gain insight and knowledge in the field of in-depth life care. This program is offered every month. We offer at least two trainings every month. And these programs can be applied to anyone who works within the in-depth life care field, or anyone who wish to help and support those who are dealing with life-limiting illness. So I'll be sharing the link to the program itself right now. Bear with me. And if you're interested, you can just go ahead and contact me, and I'll be able to send you more information. So that would be it for today. I thank you all for being here with us. I especially thank our panelists for being here with us, and I'll be signing off now. I'll give you a few moments to complete the evaluation form, so I'll stay on. All right.
Thank you, Besa.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This was amazing. It was really amazing listening to Ilea and Teresa and hearing that information, even for me as a practitioner. So thank you all.
Thank you, Zana. I really appreciated the information you shared. I've already clicked on to get my free gift.
Me too. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
Yeah, it'd be a treat. All right. I'll give people a few minutes to complete the eval.
I just received it. I'm so excited. My husband said, when are we talking to her again? We need to get started. So I told him soon. I also immediately started following you on Facebook.
Ah, very good. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't mention tomorrow I'm doing my weekly show, Food is the Best Medicine.
Oh,
so it's
no, on
Friday,
Facebook.
On Facebook at
Okay.
12 o'clock every Friday. And if you miss it, you can just see the recordings afterwards. But I do a food demo and then I talk about the health benefits of some things.
Good.
And we're
Can't wait.
focusing on immunity this month.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
So,
Which is totally
yeah.
sorely needed, especially now.
Yeah.
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 Oh, good.
Yeah. Okay, good.
I'll be there.
Good to hear that.
All right. I will be signing off now. Thank you both. Good
Thank
to
you.
All right.
Bye,
Thank
Bye,
again, and
everybody.
thank you,
all.
Zana.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.